I'm Joel Kovitz. 3217-0904 was my Army serial number. I got in 1941 before Pearl Harbor. They assigned me to a heavy weapons school. I became a .30 caliber machine gun specialist, which meant that I was going to be a machine gunner. Patrolling 14 miles of the Gulf Coast beach, somebody had to cover that section of beach, and we were picked. So we chipped in $18 a piece, and we bought some of these horses. We really couldn't ride a horse. With proper instructions, we looked professional. I had to carry a Thompson and ride a horse at the same time. They told the German POWs they escaped and the Indians caught them. The Indians would get $25 for each scalp that they brought in. And if it was a blonde scalp, they would get a $5 bonus. What some of the guys pulled, they dressed up like Indians, feathers and all kinds of war paint. And when the train pulled in, they attacked the train. And the MPs that were guarding the prisoners told all the prisoners to lie on the floor. They would protect them from the Indians. The couple of months I was in, nobody tried to escape. They stuck us on a ship as replacements for the 41st into New Guinea. And one of the anti-tank shells went through the front of our boat. It was armor-piercing bullet. And it went through the neck of the lieutenant, almost tore his head off. And he was bleeding up in the air, spraying all over all of us, making us nervous as hell. The Australians got the information that there was a Jap patrol coming down on the ridge towards us. And then I was given the order to fire, and I emptied a whole belt on the 10 or 12 guys that were down the bottom. I was supposed to go down and go through the pack or written material and photographs. They were very proud soldiers. There were pieces of dead Jap floating all over that damn swamp. I awakened, I heard Davis grunt, and I looked up and there were two Japs with their bayonets in Davis, and I released the safety and I shot both Japs, one shot each. They fell back, and I grabbed him and I put his intestines back in and I held him, and I took my shovel and I scraped the pieces of him out of the bottom because of the flies, and I threw that out. I had to let Davis lay down there with those Jap bodies for 2 days, and I watched him swell up, and collapse. It was very disturbing. I don't know if I was crying or if I wasn't, but that was the end of Charlie. The Australians were cheerful blokes. I'd sing them, "Oh, pistol packing mama, lay that pistol down. Pistol packing mama, lay that pistol down." I only went on 14 patrols, and we'd get clobbered on about half of them.
Lay that pistol down, babe, lay that pistol down. Pistol packing mama, lay that pistol down.
The Japs had brought to New Guinea tanks that were very useful, I guess, in the 20s and 30s in China. But they were little tanks. They were about the size of a Jeep. And they had a two-man crew. I had a little 37mm cannon, about this big, that fired a short 37mm armor-piercing shell, and one .25 caliber machine gun without a stock. It just had a handle. And it was attached to the turret. The turret worked with a crank, and there was no optical sight or anything. There was a T-slot. They were dug in a big cliff across a little valley. Our scouts and the natives had told us where the Japs were. So somewhere at division headquarters decided they would move us all up. And the place had been shelled and bombed, and they had these big guns on I think they're called frigates. They bombed the hell out of that valley and shelled it. We didn't move up until they stopped all this the shelling. And then the Navy came over with these new planes, I don't know what they were called, gold-winged planes they were. And they were Navy planes. We had a couple of little flat tops. They dropped bombs and strafed that whole valley. And then we moved in. And we finally got the machine gun up on the little ridge. And there was this enormous tree. It was about easily a yard thick. And a lot of the branches had been, broken off and burned off. So I decided what we'd do, instead of digging in, I set the gun up high, leave a slot between the branches, and put all this rubble, this broken rock, around us to protect us from anything the Japs could hit us with. And a lot of the riflemen, because there was space between the ground and the tree, some of them scraped the ground, and could then have a field of fire. Right next to our machine gun was this BAR man, and he had a pretty good field of fire. We're, kind of settled in, and across that messed up little valley, this little tank starts coming towards us. A couple of people began firing at it. We didn't have any bazooka, but rifle fire isn't going to be that effective against a tank. Well, it got to where the log was, and the BAR man was trying to hit the T-slot. Everybody tried because we all carried a lot of ammunition. Even a BAR man would get from the supply sergeant and get 8, 6, 5, as many as he could, extra clips. Anyway, the tank noticed him. So what the tank decided to do was come in and point the cannon into the slit, but the tank couldn't get down low enough because there was so much rubble. So the tank kept backing up and firing at him with the cannon. And he, of course, was flat at the bottom of the hole. Some of it was hitting the log, but a 3-foot thick log just soaked up the AP rounds. So the tank started coming around from the side, trying to get him with the machine gun. What happened is the tank got hung up. The treads are only this wide. And when it got up on top of the branches, instead of coming down, it came down on the stub of a heavy branch that had broken off. And the treads were just going, the motor. And it couldn't fire the cannon, it couldn't fire the machine gun. Meanwhile, this guy, the BAR, was getting hysterical. And because they were still firing the machine gun on the cannon. And they stopped firing for a minute. I guess they had to reload. The machine gun had a clip, and the cannon had to be opened up, and shell had to be put in. And he jumps up on the hood of the tank, shoves the muzzle of his BAR into the T-slot, and empties a whole clip into the T-slot. The motor stopped, and the tank was dead. But the BAR man sat down on the hood, and he dropped his BAR, and he just sat there. And what happened is the other machine gun, the number 1 gun, which was down near the roots of the tree, they were overrun, grenaded and bayoneted, and Japs started coming around there. So the lieutenant who was with me helped me pull the machine gun away from where we were, and I fired alongside the log, and I kept piling up the Japs as they were coming. So were the riflemen.
You were firing into what was originally one of your positions that had been overrun.
Yeah. But, they were all dead from grenade and bayonet.
Sure. It felt weird to you, didn't it?
Yeah, because if they'd put the number 2 gun there, I'd be dead. But we stopped the attack. See, the Japs couldn't move fast because that whole area was torn up, It wasn't like a field. There were shell holes and there were trees at an angle. So the Japs were having a hard time just getting to us. But whoever gave the order, you know, must have seen it as fairly level and figured they'd get to us. But we had too much firepower for them. That was my experience, one experience with a Jap tank that was functional. In Bayak, we couldn't get them out of the caves. You know, in 2 years' time, they dug caves all over the bottom there. Somebody got the bright idea of getting drums of aviation fuel on top, puncturing them, letting the fuel run down, seep down into the ground, and then igniting it. But there was no real road, but there was a path that had already been brought up to our ridge that was made by these little Caterpillar tractors with a trailer behind them. They used to bring us up food and water and supply, because they were building roads, engineers were building roads all over Bayak. It was going to be a big base for us. So Bayak had like 3 airfields. And yeah, probably had more, but I only saw 3. So what they did is when the patrols went out, they would send 4 of those little tractors with 2 drums in each trailer, so that was 8 drums. And there's 55 gallons in each drum. And then the engineers would stand the drums up, and we had, from one of the tanks, we had a 50 caliber air-cooled machine gun that was supposed to be used for anti-aircraft protection, but the Japs had no aircraft near us. So they took all the APs out of the belt and all the incendiaries. The P-38s used incendiaries in their belts. I mean, the engineers thought it all out. And first they punctured it, and we were supposed to keep our eyes open in case the Japs tried to do something about those drums. But no Japs came out. And I got permission from the major to fire a few rounds from my gun at the ledge above in case they try to throw a grenade or something before all the gas had seeped in. And that's a strange ledge. One morning, 4 officers with swords came out on the ledge and screamed at us in Japanese and waving their swords around. And everybody began shooting at them, but the lieutenant says, "Don't open fire. It's probably trying to locate where the machine guns are," you know. And 2 of them were either hit or tripped. The other 2 dragged them back in. I'll never understand that either. Anyway, what happened was they put a whole or half a belt of incendiaries into the air-cooled 50. And they began firing incendiaries at the drums. And sure enough, one of them caught. I think it only took maybe 2 dozen rounds, and began burning. And we're waiting for something to happen because, you know, the engineers said it'll seep through the rock and it'll burn fast. Well, it didn't burn that fast. We didn't know it, but it seemed that some of the tunnel they had was right under the ridge. And you could feel the ridge, I could feel the ridge moving.
How long did that keep going for?
About a day and a half, because they must have had all kinds of material down there, you know. And we thought they'd come out of the holes, and everybody was waiting to shoot them when they came out. No. Nobody came out of the hole. So there must have been tunnels going back so they could get out somewhere further back in the interior of the island. Now, we eventually either killed them or drove them off into the jungle where the natives killed them, or they died of starvation and diseases. The natives have been treated very badly by the Japs. The Japs raped their women, and the Japs indentured them to work on the airfields and barely fed them and didn't give them any money. Natives hated the Japs.
Greater Asia co-prosperity sphere.
Not in New Guinea. By 1944, we were getting a lot of 18-year-old kids who were watching American war movies. And they came in, and they weren't assigned to a rifle company. They were assigned as ammo bearers. They had to carry their carbine and 2 boxes of ammo. And of course, they had their shovel and pickmatic and everything. So what happened with these 2 kids, one was Ed and one was Charlie. And they're nice kids, you know. And everybody was dug in, and I'd say, you know, we're going to stay in our foxholes, and we're going to watch out in front, because the Japs have no planes. Maybe washing machine Charlie will come over at night, but we've got foxholes. So at that time we had sea rations, I remember. So after I had eaten, I lay down on the bottom of my foxhole. One thing I always tried to do was, once I was down, I would shovel out where my feet were so I could lie full length on the bottom. And I could sleep. I get up and I look around and I see these 2 kids are wandering down the beach where all these, where the Lever Brothers coconut trees had all been knocked down. And I didn't have a whistle, and I wasn't sure shit wasn't going to blow it. And I figured I'd go and run after them, bring them back. Then I figured, why should I expose myself to sniper fire? So I took my field glasses, and I'm watching them. And out of the edge of the jungle, off to the left, is the Jap patrol is coming out. There by the coconut trees, and one of them spots the patrol. I don't remember if it was Ed or Charlie. So the other one gets behind the leaves of a knockdown coconut tree. The one behind the stem of the coconut tree gets down on one knee like he was taught, and fires at the 2 guys in the front of the squad, gets them down. The rest of the squad backs off where the other guy by the leaves could see them. He knocks off 2 guys in the back of the squad. Meanwhile, the others come in. Make a long story short, as the squad was moving around and running away, they wiped out the whole Japanese squad from what I could see.
8 guys, 10 guys?
8 guys, you know, at least. And they started hollering at each other, Ed, I got some, and Charlie, I got some, you know. And they came running back to me. I said, I told you to stay in the foxhole. I was in no mood to bawl them out. I said, turn around. They turned around. I kicked them each in the ass. I said, next time I tell you something, listen. Let me tell you something about my part of the war. I was puzzled throughout my 4.5, 5 years in the Army, completely. From the time I said I do until the time they said you're a civilian. I wasn't much of a soldier in terms of, you know, the Army's view of what a soldier should be like. But I did whatever I had to do, and I did the best I could. My mission was to kill Japanese soldiers. And I killed a lot of them.